reason that people need to go to socialsecuritychoices.com, all one word, socialsecuritychoices.com. I'm talking with Jeff Miller, who is arguably one of the, in my opinion, don't argue with me on this, Jeff. You're one of the top experts in the country on social security. I've done my research. I like how you explain things. It's very to the point. You're very analytical. You do your homework. Just on a side note, tell people a little bit about socialsecuritychoices.com and what they're going to find when they go there.
Well, we have sort of two aspects to the website. One is simply to provide as much information as we can for people about the Social Security program, and try to, as you pointed out, try to explain this in as clear a fashion as we can. So if you go to the website, you'll see all kinds of information there about Social Security. And I've talked to a number of financial advisors, and they say they often go to the website just to get grounded in some of the questions that they've had. We've had well over 1 million unique visitors to our website over the years. And some of them didn't even know that we offer reports. Okay, they were going there just basically for the information. But we also feel that having an individual report, that putting in your own information and specifically finding out what's the best strategy for you is also important. So you can also go and click on a link depending on what your situation is, whether you're single, married, widowed, divorced, and so forth. And you can obtain a report where you put in just some basic information. And from that, we generate a sort of an optimal strategy for you. Now, in that report, there are a couple things that are very important. One is longevity. And we don't attempt to predict that for you. We let you put that in for yourself because it depends on so many personal factors.
Sure.
We do generate one version of the report with sort of standard life expectancies for men and women. And you have that, but then there's two other elements where you can put in things yourself if you think your situation is somewhat special. The other thing we do, which I don't think any of our competitors do, and that is we have a table there, and we show you that if you don't follow the optimal strategy, you can see how much you will lose by following a different strategy. And in some instances, it's rather trivial. That is, the difference between the optimal strategy and these other strategies, the cost to you might be quite small. And it may be you look at that and you say, gee, I'd like to claim this other way because I'm only going to lose $50 a month or something like that over a lifespan. So we try to provide as much information as we can so that you can take a look at it and make your own judgments.
And what's the cost for that? What's the cost for that report?
The cost is $39.95.
And I don't share in that, everyone. I have Jeff on because Jeff's an expert. We don't have any type of agreement other than when he comes on, be yourself and tell the truth is what he does, all the time, which is good. But I would encourage you to go there. It's worth that for you to get his brain. You're buying his brain, and that's a very inexpensive price to pay for this type of expertise, this type of let's call it Social Security tenure. I'm going to talk your language, being an ex-professor, right? But he's just fantastic, and we love that site. That's why one of the reasons he's on with us. The most interesting thing, Jeff, that is happening right now to Social Security are issues that are attached to inflation, which you just kind of talked about. Do you think prices will continue to rise at their present rate? What's your take on that?
Well, there's a lot of disagreement within the economics profession as to, whether this is a long-term issue or not. And I think back last summer, like the Federal Reserve and others were saying that they thought this was going to be a temporary thing.
Transitory, as they said, right?
Yeah, transitory. And it hasn't really turned out to be quite what they expected. And so
Mhm.
we now see um, more of a longer term view of this. And the Fed is starting to take some actions where it's a reflection of their concern about a longer term inflationary problem. So we're almost certainly going to see interest rates go up. We're seeing some interest rates go up already. The Fed is anticipating some increases in the basic rate that they control, the federal funds rate. And that has a big impact on other rates in the economy. So just in anticipation of their actions, we're seeing changes in other interest rates right now. In terms of people who are retired, um, one thing to take note of is this 6% increase in Social Security benefits, in a sense, was a measure of the past inflation.
Mm-hmm.
That is the inflation up until September of last year. And so to the extent that inflation continues to rise, that will continue to eat away at the purchasing power of people. And then next September, they'll do another calculation and then an adjustment next January. But if it stays at the present level, which is now even a little higher, it's around 7% for another year, that will cut into people's budgets. And
Sure.
this time, there are various factors that are affecting these prices. Some things may be less important to people, on Social Security. I'm not sure how many people buy used cars, and used cars market is just
It's crazy.
prices have just zoomed up.
Yeah.
Another factor is housing costs. If you already own your home, that's probably not going to be a factor. But if you're renting, yes, that will be a factor. So when you start to break it down, you start to see whether or not you're going to be seriously affected by this inflation. Now, what everybody I think is experiencing is higher food prices.
Yes.
And that's a really fundamental thing. So I think we're all experiencing that. Now, when it comes to whether this continues or not, I have always looked at it as one of the key factors here was whether wages are rising, because wages are a fundamental cost, and they often get incorporated into pricing decisions that firms make. And right now we're going through what I consider a very, very unusual period in the economy. We're seeing wages go up, especially for those in the lower income groups, as people are kind of refusing to go back to work. Myself, I see this as a very positive thing. I think wages have stagnated now for decades, and to see some people who have experienced this stagnation actually get some higher income, I think is frankly for the economy a very positive thing. But it can be the fact too that when you go to a restaurant or you buy food or whatever, that's going to be incorporated in the prices that people pay. So so these things are all working together, and to the extent that wages continue to rise, I think that's going to put pressure on prices. So we may see a longer term outcome here of rising prices.
I agree. But, if prices continue to rise, I mean, the advantages of these increases are just going to be wiped out. And that's kind of interesting. We're also in a weird, different labor market to where people are not choosing not to work and choosing not to do jobs they don't want to do. This will be interesting how this kind of all plays out.
Hey, Stan the Annuity Man here. Did you like that little taste of my podcast, Fun with Annuities? Hey, if you want to see the full version, click the link and watch the whole darn thing. Remember, Fun with Annuities. Living the reality, not the dream.